What's up, everybody? It's Gavin here with NBA Real Talk. I'm here today with my man Lawrence, aka the Fu Manchu, infamous on Instagram for having one of the best Iverson collections around. If you think just by looking at his Instagram, you're gonna know that, just wait till you see the little stash that I got a little sneak preview of last night. So, me and Lawrence are gonna have a chat today. We're just gonna talk some AI, talk about Iversons, Reebok shoes, and just talk about some things that we like to talk about. So, Mr. Fu Manchu, Mr. Lawrence, how you doing today?
Hey, doing well. Appreciate it. Thanks a lot for
Yeah.
the opportunity. It's good to chop it up with someone from Instagram live now.
Yeah, me and Mr. Fu Man, we got in touch over the wonders of the internet, just like pretty much everybody else in this amazing community, where we probably thought we were the last of the people like us who are into this stuff, and found out there's a whole wide world out there of people who have collected all the things we've collected and then some. It doesn't matter whose collection we're looking at. Everybody's got something that somebody wants or didn't know about, or just a gem that we never even knew existed. And he's definitely got a few of them. So, Lawrence, I'm going to start you off with the basic question. Just what got you into collecting Iversons, basically?
Yeah, I was always into Reebok first. It was Reebok ever since I was before elementary school. I remember some of my first pairs of shoes were Reeboks through elementary school were the BB 4600s. And then in middle school, the sidelights and auras, the cross trainers, and then the pump verticals. Then that's what really started me into the kicks with Reeboks especially. So in 7th grade, my best friend at the time, he said, "Hey, Lawrence, you got to step up your kicks game because middle school's got girls." So
what year was 7th grade, just to put us in an era?
7th grade was, you're really aging me. So 7th grade is about 93, 4.
93, 94, mid-90s game.
Yeah, there you go. Yep. So he told me how to get some nice kicks, step up my shoe game because of girls. So I went to Ross, and I remember it was 2 pairs of shoes that I was looking at. The Zoom Spiridons for around $50. And then there was a pair of white pump vertical 2s for also about $50. And I said, which one? And I said, and I remember I walked from the men's shoe aisle over to my mom where she was, shopping over wherever she was. And I remember, "Hey, Mom, which one do you think?" And I chose the pumps. And ever since then, it's been, before it was mostly Reeboks and some whatever else. But since 7th grade on, it's been just about all Reeboks ever since then. So right about then, Iverson came in about 96. And so I'm a little bit of a late adopter. I didn't really care too much for Iverson too much back then. It was not I didn't like him. I just didn't really care too much. But it was about the shoes. And so, once he started really making a name for himself, then I really started noticing shoes. And so when I really got into Iversons was, I'd say when I was in college more. 2000, 2001, 02, 03.
Cool, me too.
Yeah.
No, the right on, man. So basically, back in the 90s, you said you were already into Reebok. And for anyone who might not be of said era, in the 90s, coming out of the 80s, Reebok was actually still pretty big and big with basketball. And you mentioned the pump, I believe right around that 93, 94 time. Weren't pumps like all the rage? Weren't there pumps everywhere?
Yeah, there were pumps everywhere. But in my school, the kamikaze ones were huge. Everybody had a pair of kamikaze ones. Yep. And then, of course, the black tops and the preseasons, those were hot. We played middle school football, and everybody got preseasons on in the locker room. And, with the black tops, everybody loved black tops as well. Above the rim, it was really popular as well, but mostly, with the pumps, but it was really mostly the black tops and the preseasons and the kamikazes that people were really going after back in my school anyway.
In the 90s, for me, it was like the mid to later 90s, like Nike was pretty much like everyone, they wore Nike.
Yeah.
And then really cool kids got the Jordans, because that was like, you're a kid, so you're like, what is this brand bigger than Nike? And it's like, but Reebok, a lot of people sleep on it. Reebok was huge for a minute, coming out of the 80s and into the 90s, especially with the pump and deep brown and the dunk on. You said you got into the Iversons basically around 2000, 2001, which is when I got into my first pair was the Answer 4. I think we went over this last night, but maybe refresh the story. So what was your first pair? Was it the Questions?
I can't remember that.
You
I
can't
can't
remember
remember.
what your first pair of
I,
Iversons were?
no, I can't remember which pair of Iversons. I was already pretty deep into shoes at that time, so
Mm,
it's not like there was one significant pair of shoes that the Iverson shoes that I got. I was already into shoes, and I was really into, well, still am, the Graphlites, the Instant Pumps. The Instant Pump Fear is my favorite shoe. So back then there was a ton of colorways that nobody bought. Well, nobody was really looking for on eBay, and so I can get them real cheap, like the Jackie Chans and the Kenzos and whatnot. So I had a lot of those. The ventilators at that time was big as well in 2005. I think that was the golden era of ventilator retros,
mm.
and they have the Koyomi calendar pack, just a ton of different ventilators. And so I was really into the ventilators, the ERS, instant pumps, graph lights, mm, a lot of that stuff. And so then I started getting into Iversons a little bit more because then I saw on eBay they were cheap. And so, hey, this is this really cool shoe, and it's cheap, and nobody's really looking at it. Then I'll go get it. So back home in Texas, my storage, or not storage, but my closet back home in Texas, where my parents are, where I grew up. I have that stash. That's the original stash, and they got a lot of the dead stock sevens and the sixes and the uh, ones and twos and all that stuff.
So so the one thing we can almost guarantee is that somewhere in your collection is your first pair of Iversons, but you're not quite sure which one it is.
Yeah.
So you
Right.
already have a collection going, basically, like going into high school and stuff like that, and then
Yeah.
start picking up Iversons and stuff. When would you say, like, because you were already a shoe collector, did you basically start collecting Iverson right off the bat, or you got a pair or two, and then, like, when did, like you say, it turned into almost like, in a comfortable way, we'll call it an obsession, maybe?
Yeah. 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 That's a good question as well. I remember the East Bay magazines. I had all the East Bays. I was a subscriber, so I'd get all the East Bays. The very first, not say this is not the first time I saw Iversons, but the first time they really made an impression on me was there was one issue that had the threes and they had the Scott Hewitt's design details on the front cover. And that's the first Iverson shoe that I really remember. Like, that's a really cool shoe that I want. Of course, I saw the Answer One. Yeah, I saw the Answer One commercials. Of course, saw the question commercials and all that. People were wearing questions, but this is just another shoe to me. Those are cool shoes. But then the three, when they had all the design details on the sketching, and then this measurement here and that detail there, that's when I was like, oh, these Iversons are really cool. I really want a pair.
I was going to say, this is a question that comes to mind now. Having truly grown up in that era and being a very, we'll call it, avid and aware collector, so you're very into the culture. So you seeing Iverson from '96 onward and the shoes that were releasing. Do you remember, like, what you would call, like, the peak Iverson? Like, for me, for example, I would say my first Iverson, the Answer 4, everybody had those. People had Iverson ongoingly after that in questions and this and that. But the Answer 4, the first time, like, I got it, and then everybody else around me got it, and they were everywhere. What Iverson did you use that one in your for you?
I'll say the 4. I think that's a popular shoe for people to say that for, because obviously his accolades that year, and it's a great performer. The 4s are still the main hoop shoe that I hoop in, my league games.
Yeah.
When I drop 5 points a game or something like that, those are mostly going to be the 4s.
Yeah, and that speaks to it. Like, it really was just such a revolutionary comfortable shoe. Speaking of that, the story behind the 4, you're a guy, when you post on Instagram and you post the shoes, you're really into the storytelling behind the shoe. And you're really into telling the sort of what the shoe's been through, why you decided to retire if pieces fall off, or the store you went to and it wasn't there, but then you went to another store. So maybe just do you consider yourself an artist, a storyteller? Do you like to tell stories, or is it just shoes that you like to tell stories about? What is it about the storytelling behind the shoes?
I really appreciate noticing that, and in my own way, that's how my storytelling comes out. That's how I tell my stories, and there's a ton of stories out there, but that's just how I tell my stories. So I really appreciate you noticing that.
Yeah.
No telling when you post a long caption if anybody's gonna read it, but they just see the picture.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. You find people like us out there who are like, this guy's got AIs. What's he got to say? You know?
Yeah. And you know, there's a lot of times I leave stuff out in my posts just because I was like, I don't think anybody cares that much. So I've already written a whole bunch of stuff. Nobody's going to care about the rest of it. So I really appreciate you telling me this. You saying that, you noticing that. I think I've always wanted to be an industrial designer ever since I was a kid. So I remember back in elementary school, I used to design cars. And I do not just, just a car, but I do the car, and then I do the front view, the back view, the top view, the interior, the dashboard, the door panels, the seats, how the seat looks, all the design of the seats. So I was always into industrial design, even back in the day when I was in elementary school. And, when my first passion of collecting was actually model cars, 1/18th scale model cars. Well, Hot Wheels, of course, but then the 1/18th scale model cars. And then, it just evolved into shoes. And so, in my closet back home in Texas, it's top shelf. It's all the 1/18 scale cars. And then the bottom, well, from the floor to the top shelf is all shoes. So I think the storytelling is when an artist, and I consider shoes art, people designing they put so much thought into it. And to me, that's art. And they're telling a story of why this panel goes there, why this technology is there, why do they put hit a color there. And that's a little bit less significant nowadays with all the loud colors, but back in the day when you had one shoe with two main colors and one hit, right? That's where it's like, okay, why did you make it that way? And so I think the 4 especially is a really good shoe to use as an example, because they had so many different colorways, but it was always just 2 colorways and one hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, for sure. And I think you revealing that about like the car and the design, I think that just instantly translates to something like shoes, man. Because so many shoes have been inspired, like the Kobe one, the Jordan. I know 13, 14 were definitely inspired by cars. Like I'm sure others were too. And certainly, something about vehicles. I guess it's the mode of transportation. You put something on your feet or a vehicle. The modes of transportation, they seem to kind of come together.
Which I think for guys, I think for guys, it's about freedom. You get your first bike, and you get your first car, you get your first pair of nice shoes you can go walk around in. I think that all ties together into just growing up and having freedom. I think that's just simple for me.
That's a good one. Yeah, because people bring that up, getting a car. The car is freedom.
Yeah.
A car is stress, car is problems, car is this, car is that, car is freedom.
Yeah.
When you were going, like the one time when you were a kid, you'd like look forward to school on Monday as if on Saturday or Sunday, mom took you to buy kicks. You're like, I can't wait to show these on Monday. Which brings me to the other thing with your page is that you notoriously post in your stories about how you got one for wearing, one for staring. And I wanted to ask you, do you have any kind of an idea how many certified doubles you have? For instance, I have a million pairs of questions, a million pairs of answers, but I only think I've doubled up on, I think I have 2 pairs of black answer 3s, and I have 2 pairs of question 3s, and I have 2 pairs of answer 13s. Everything else, it's a different color. How many shoes do you have 2 pairs of the same shoe?
I don't know. I can't say.
Estimate?
I really can't say. So the origination of one to wear, one to stare is I'm a little OCD, and so if I mess, back in the day when you had a new pair of shoes, you go to school, you walked a certain way because you didn't want to mess them up. Just even the little nubs on the bottom, right? So that's translated to my adult life, unfortunately. So being a little OCD, I don't want to, because I knew that back in the day when I was getting some of this stuff for really, really cheap, I would never, a lot of the stuff I would just never wear just because I have no real interest in wearing them sometimes. And then I just knew that I'm collecting for the long term. I'm not just in shoes for a little bit and then out of it. So I know, like, even back in high school, back in 2000, we're 25 years later, I'm still collecting shoes. So I always thought that there's certain shoes that I want to keep and save and not wear. But then there's other ones that say, for back in the day, for like say Instant Pump Furies, I knew I wanted to wear certain pairs, so I'd double up, one to wear, one to stare, so I wouldn't mess up the stare pair. I really couldn't say how many doubles I have. It's not like every shoe in my collection, but it's a good amount that are.
Number for a guess, like at least this many, probably not more than this many.
Well, I'm thinking like, for example, the sevens. I think in the white red colorway, I've got 5 pairs.
5 pairs.
So yeah, 5 pairs.
Whoa.
Just throughout the years, right? Over 25 years, I've collected 5 pairs. I bought 5 pairs of white reds, and just 1 pair right there. But in my room, there's 2 more pairs, and then back in storage, there's 1 pair, and then back in Texas, there's another pair. So,
you got dead stock pairs of like lots of that stuff in the mid 2000s.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
So actually, that makes me think of another thing, because when we were going through your storage last night, with your OCD, you keep not the original box of shoes coming, even the box they might have been shipped in, the receipts and everything. Do you think part of your inspiration to do that is that it seemed like you're very like, how often do you buy things at retail? Usually it seems like you got a lot of stuff on sale, and when you're going there on sale, you're like, well, hell, I mean, if this thing's $40 when it was brand new, it's probably $150. Like, why don't I just buy 2, because it's less than even buying 1 like a few months back.
Yep.
That inspires it a lot. Like at retail, would you ever buy anything? And if you did, would you ever double up on retail?
Yeah, that's a good question. Back in the day, I wouldn't. Most of my stuff is eBay. Good old eBay. It's all good old eBay. Of course, I go to the store and buy stuff, but I definitely want to see it on a sale. I knew that shoes are going to go on sale. There's no real point for me to be the first person, because I told you last time I'm a little bit late adopter. With Iverson, I was really into Iverson, and when he first came out, it took me 3, 4, 5 years to be like, oh, he's a really good player and he's repping the brand that I like. But I do remember he had that logo pin that said Reebok, and I was like, okay, I'll pay attention to him at least. Not a lot, just because obviously it's $300 down the drain, where you can't get that back, really. Well, you could, but I mean, in the moment, you can't get $300 back. Well, like right now, I'm wearing the White Answer 4s, the ones that came out. These ones,
white and gray, yeah, the 54 point or whatever, right?
Yeah, these are just so fresh. And so for me, this pair I doubled up on. There's some other 4s that I doubled up on, questions I doubled up on, or actually a lot of the questions I doubled up on. But I have to say and commit to myself, I'm going to wear that pair of shoes.
Yeah.
To double, and that's a retail. And so for like these 4s, these are my wear pair, but they haven't made it outside yet. It's been 2 years, so they're one of my house slippers. So I wear them around the house, but eventually maybe they'll go outside to be my actual wear pair. Whereas the stair pairs, over here somewhere. I think that a lot of us, adults that are into shoes, don't really, like there's one guy, Rich Retros, on Instagram, and he does great with stepping in mud, all that. I mean, I wouldn't do all that, but it's great that he's comfortable doing it, and I think a lot of us wish we could do that without a conscience.
You could argue one for wear, one for staring is its own form of freedom. You know what I mean? Which brings me to the next sort of logical question here that we haven't gotten to yet is your favorite Iverson shoe and why?
It's a 3. It's the way it looks. It's got that wavy quilted pattern, the organic curves. I'm more of a organic looking guy than a like sharp angular guy. Mm-hmm. And so that's just a really pretty shoe to me. And one thing is my favorite shoe to hoop in is a 4, but it's got the zipper and it's got the zip and the Velcro. It's kind of a pain to deal with sometimes. And then I really, really, really like the 10. So I think maybe the 10 might be up there for me in terms of the way the shoe looks. But then you got to add the zipper and then the strap, and then you got the pump. So it's just a heavy.
Is the fact that the 10 is a pump, does that add to your love for it? If there was no pump at all, would you feel like?
No, it adds to it. It definitely adds to it. But my point is that the 3 is a simple shoe,
Mhm.
and you lace it up and go out. The hex, the questions with the hexlite pods, this a little blingy, flashy, this great, but with a 3, there's no like real flash to them. It's just a really simple, good looking shoe, and I think I really like the 8 as well. And I think for me, the 3 and the 8, they're very similar to me for some reason.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and I've always, even though they're not directly comparable, because of course the Jordan 11 was like, they're like, oh, look how classy this shoe is. I don't know if not that it's not classy, but class isn't the first word that comes to mind for the 3. But I always described it as a bit of the Jordan 11 of the Iverson line. Like I felt like it has the classiness, that leather, the feel of the shoe. And again, now knowing that about you and your creativity and the desire for design, and you describing that, like, yes, that's where the 3 stands out. Like, the way it curves, and there's nothing too sharp about it and everything. It's flow to it that makes it like a true basketball shoe.
But you touched on the leather, though. That's something I didn't touch on, but that leather is just amazing on those original 3s. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, the leather, everything, it literally, this goes without saying. I'm sure even people who aren't familiar with the old shoes know, but everything about those old 3s was just way better. It was just way better. And it's funny, I'm kind of the opposite of you. The 4 is my favorite shoe, particularly that reverse black-white playoff 4 or for the one home game in the NBA Finals. But the 3 is my favorite to hoop in. And the one that finished my high school, whatever basketball career. 3 was my go-to. So we're both on the 3 and 4 train, just on piloting opposite ends. Are there any holy grails, like for the Iverson line, that you haven't gotten your collection yet? Like something you've seen pictures of, or you've seen like a one or something? Let's leave out like ridiculous samples and just say one, like a general release, or one that you might see on eBay from time to time that actually costs real.
I really can't think of anything older, but like that one Panini Friends and Family one.
Which one's the Friends and Family one?
The 3 Paninis, but then there's a one Panini that came before those 3. It was gold toe with the shiny blue. Yeah, you know about it. Was it 1 of 500? I think it was.
Yeah.
Something like that. And man, I know I saw some people that got it, and I'm not big enough on Instagram or YouTube and all that to get a pair, but I was like, boy, I'm jealous. Yeah. So that pair, I think there's a lot of pairs in my collection I haven't seen on eBay or even Eastbay. I like a lot of stuff I have. Like one pair of the 8-ball Answer 8s that I showed you, or that I didn't show you. I think they're actually back home in Texas. Yeah. But and then the question lows with the Q's, the question marks on them that I showed you last night. You really haven't seen those. So I don't think there's really anything that I've seen that I really want, except for those Paninis.
The Paninis? So the Paninis Grail?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I'd say so. I have all 3 of the regular Paninis, but I just don't have that one Friends and Family one.
What would you like to see retroed, but that likely never will be? So we all have shoes from the past line that we would love to see come again, but realistically, there's probably not a market for them. What would your pair be, or 2 pairs?
I've got all the models, so I think the ones I want to retro are probably the 7s and the 10s and the 12s.
So we're on the same page for 7 and 12 for sure.
Okay. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
I think after the 7, no, the 8. Yeah, so after the 8, the 9 was the first pump. So from 9 onward, you can confirm this, they never made lows anymore, right? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, there was no lows, I don't think.
Yeah.
I wonder why they did that out. Maybe the last couple runs didn't sell, but I remember so many guys they had low answer 5s were around. Not so much low answer 6, definitely saw low answer 7s.
Yeah.
Low answer 8s.
Yeah. I think just later on in the career and the numbers didn't support. So, yeah.
There's that one picture that floats around on Google Images. I think I sent it to you once and asked. It was like, it looked like in the picture there was an answer 2 low top. It looked like it was something like a few years. It's a picture of that guy who was like the Reebok exec and AI at like a table. and
Mm.
it looked like a low top answer too. It had to be like a sample, like never released, obviously.
Yeah.
'Cause, yeah, I always wonder what it looked like.
Send that to me again. I'd like to see it again.
What do you think of Reebok's run the last 15 years, basically? So let's say since 2010, since he came out the league with Iverson and basketball in general.
Yeah. I think they're a tease. They put out some really exciting stuff, but they hadn't followed up with to sustain it. That's one thought. Another thought is they've had some, some pretty cool shoes here and there, but they're just not that signature level of quality and detail and thought and workmanship. So I think not having a signature athlete, I think that definitely hurts. So that's another quick thought of, sometimes they have that one model and then like, oh, that's really cool, but then it's just not quite there for sometimes for me. And then obviously I think, the whole Adidas part, it broke my heart when I heard that they're being bought by Adidas, or Adidas is buying them. I was just so happy because one of the archivists came out to San Francisco many years ago, I think before COVID, and we were just talking. That was right about the same time where, they're going back to the Vector. I think my timing might be off, but I was just so happy that they were going back to the Vector. I think actually my dates are wrong. Anyway, details, but anyway, the point is going back to the Vector, going back to who they really are, and having the freedom to do something on their own without ownership. They're much more free, and then of course, obviously having people that care in place, like Shaq and AI and Todd Krinsky. Those are, of course, there's a ton of people I don't know, but those are just the people that are out there in the media. So I'm really happy that they have some people in place that seem to care.
Yeah, I still to this day
and have freedom. Yeah.
I swear Adidas bought that company for the purpose of just like into an embarrassment. Like I was like, why don't you just kill the damn thing? It's like you're just keeping it around, but worse and worse. So yeah, that basically leads into my final question is, with Shaq and AI at the helm, what would you like to see going forward? What's something you would like to see? An example for me would be like, I would love to see, whether it's Shaq's old brand or the i3 AI's old brand, I'd love to see them sponsoring some modern athletes under that actual Mr. Line brand or something.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. There's so many possibilities. I think we're starting to see preseasons, some hints at blacktop. The above the rims are a little bit coming back. They brought the above the rim label again. Starting to see some of the heritage stuff come back, the pump vertical twos, which I'm really happy about. I have a really cool, well, not cool, but a story about the pump vertical twos, but we'll save that later on. But I'm just really happy that the white ones came out again. The ES22, they're sitting right here. So I'm really excited that they're going to be coming back with some of the older stuff, but really more than that, I want new stuff. I want new stuff that we can collect in the future. I went to, I go to shoe stores every now and then because I have a daughter now, so I don't really have a chance to go walk the malls too much anymore. But when I go, it's all the old retro stuff. There's maybe, I think we're doing a little bit better now. Like Jason Tatum's got a shoe, Luka's got a shoe, and some other people have shoes. But maybe a couple years ago, I looked on the wall, LeBron, KD, Giannis. Those are the only three signatures on that particular wall that I remember. I was sitting in my Red Answer 7s, and I took a picture of it, and I was like, what am I going to collect later on? There's only 3 pairs of shoes here. Everything else is an Air Jordan 1 or something old, Air Max 90, something like that. So I definitely would like to have some new models that are worth looking at and collecting later on.
Yeah, no, I'm with that, and I recognize your sentiment. I remember going into a Foot Locker or something maybe a few years ago or whatever. Giannis had kind of a cool shoe. At least it had some original flavor and stuff. And like 3 guys with shoes, they all look the same. Like I feel like the last 5 or 10 years, sneakers, it's been like they've been trying to just make everything into a modified Kobe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sneakers, and I love a lot of it, but I feel like his sneaker line in an indirect way kind of ruined sneakers.
Just good thought. Yeah.
Everybody's kind of, even the Jordans the last few years have got this certain design, and I remember in the 90s and 2000s, and not just in the way we're always going to be like, oh, things were better back then. It's just in those eras, the originality of everybody's sneaker seemed just so much greater, so much higher.
Yeah.
What's cool about Reebok, especially in the Iverson line, is amidst all that originality, it's managed to stand out as its own thing. I would love to see Reebok just come back and make some standout pieces. Like, I know it's not necessarily the most functional thing, but like, let's throw a zipper back on something almost, like, or whatever, a strap, a pump, whatever. So hopefully, right at the helm, we can get it back to the promised land.
Reebok was a very innovative company. With Curry's right now with the Flow, Reebok did that with 3D Ultralight 30 years ago. You're talking about just some things like that, and I can't remember everything else, but just things like that where this is new fancy now, but we did that 30 years ago. Zoom strobles right now. So that's what, I don't know how, 5 years old, I think, right? Everybody's got Zoom stroble now, but I have a pair of Cash DMX lights that I wore back in 6th, 7th grade, and I got a pair here right now over here, but that's a DMX light stitched into the stroble with no midsole on top of 3D Ultralight. So that's
do they put the typical DMX technology in any Reeboks? Because I just realized, you being a Reebok head, do they release any DMX that's anything like what we got back in the 2000s?
Not really. Well, actually, no. Yes, they do. They do. In the walking shoes.
All right.
So they still make the DMX, the big, the max volume DMX iPack for the walking shoes, and
Jerry, they get all the good tech, eh?
Yeah, the walking shoes, man. Then there's but it's funny because I was talking to this guy, AI Forever, and I was like, no way, and he was like, yes, I'll show you. And so I learned maybe 2 years ago, maybe last year or something like that, where all the DMX 10 packs, they had an additional iPack on top of it. So you got 2 DMX units in one shoe.
Are you talking about the one that with the stuff that was in the sole?
Yeah. So you had the iPack on let's say the 3s, the DMX 10s on the Answer 1s, but there's in the DMX 10s there's an iPack on top of that, and then like say for like these guys, the DMX run 1s, they had the 10 pack in the midsole on the bottom part, but then they also had the iPack on the top part. That's what really gave you the sensation. So like, for example, when people say there's no DMX, you can clearly see the 10 pack in a shoe. Like say these, the retro Answer 1s.
Yeah.
Like if you could see the 10 pack, you can see the Flow pack right there.
Yeah.
But that's not really what's giving you the sensation from what I heard and what I was told and I kind of felt, is that they had an iPack right on top of that midsole to give you that real good feeling.
Yeah, and I mean, I remember back in the day wondering, I was like, oh, is it like in the actual like insole or whatever?
Right.
That's the only reason I know, like, whatever the deal was with our insoles back then, they were far more comfortable and made with better technology. This has been an amazing conversation. Me and Fu Man are going to have a shoe battle, but we're going to do that in a separate video. I'll probably cut that up into shorts, so keep an eye out for that. In the meantime, thanks for joining me today, Lawrence. You guys post the links to his socials in the video. So, this is Gavin with NBA Real Talk, signing out. We'll talk to you guys next time.
Appreciate it.